Hello students, welcome. I hope I'm audible. आवाज आ रही है ना? All right. Thank you. So yesterday we had covered Nirgun Bhakti. Today we have to cover Sagun Bhakti. What does Sagun Bhakti refer to? It refers to worship and devotion towards a god with attributes or qualities. That is gunas. It is a form of devotionalism which emerged around specific gods such as Vishnu and Shiva. Now, while their followers consider them to be the supreme form of God, but because Sagun Bhakti revolves around the worship of several gods, it is distinctly polytheistic. Shagun Bhakti revolves around cults of the various incarnations and reincarnations of these gods. ठीक है? Of these gods. What is this known as? The idea of Avtarvad. And unlike Nirgun Bhakti, which rejects the idea that God ever takes an incarnation in this world, Sagun Bhakti emphasizes upon it through the medium of Leela. That God is not only the conductor of the great orchestra, great drama that life is, but he is also a prominent director and actor of it, right? And since Shagun Bhakti revolves around the worship or devotion towards a god with several attributes or gunas, idol worship is an important feature of Sagun Bhakti. This is in contrast to Nirgun Bhakti. And regarding the attitude of Shagun Bhakti towards Varna and caste, there is a mixed reality. While most Sagun Bhakti movements made a compromise on the issue of Varna and caste division, a note of social protest and reform was always present. Right? So while most of the Shagun Bhakti movements accepted the validity of caste and Varna divisions, it does not mean that they imposed it rigorously. Rather, they tried to soften its oppressive impact. They tried to attract or encourage the lower caste disciples to join them as well. They also maintained a softer attitude towards the lower caste. Similar is the case with women also. At the same time, some Sagun Bhakti cults were vehemently opposed to Varna and caste division. These include cults such as the Maharashtra Dharma and the Virashaiva sect or Lingayat sect. Okay. Similarly, the attitude of Sagun Bhakti towards women was complicated. While all the Sagun Bhakti sects tried to encourage the participation of women, some were more open to it, some were less open to it. Unlike Brahmanical orthodoxy, however, women were recognized as legitimate participants in the Shagun Bhakti movement. Right? This had not been possible under the Brahmanical order. So these are the important features of Shagun Bhakti. Now compare it with what we had learnt about Nirgun Bhakti in our last class. So several points of differences but some similarities, at least to a certain degree. Take down a question. Discuss discuss the features of Sagun Bhakti, full stop. Compare and contrast it against Nirgun Bhakti. Full stop. 200 words, 15 marks. Okay? Discuss the features of Shagun Bhakti, compare and contrast it against Nirgun Bhakti. So I hope you will be able to address this. Is it clear? ठीक है. शगुन भक्ति के जो फीचर्स हैं, do you want me to dictate them या फिर आपने उतार लिए थे? Is there a need or is there no need? No need? All right. Now, coming to the classification of Sagun Bhakti movements. As we have already learnt, these were theistic movements revolving around incarnations of different gods, primarily Vishnu and Shiva. So, Shagun Bhakti can primarily be categorized into Vaishnavite, and Saivite Bhakti. Right? ये तो basic classification हो गया. During the medieval age, three forms of Vaishnavite Shagun Bhakti emerged, namely Ram Bhakti, the Krishna cult, and Maharashtra Dharma. On the other hand, in the region of Karnataka, one prominent form of Shaivite Sagun Bhakti, known as the Virashaiva or Lingayata sect. The prominent exponents of Rama Bhakti were first of all Ramanand. He is considered to be the link between South and North Indian Bhakti, but there were certain differences between his Bhakti and the traditional Acharya Bhakti of South India. First was in the use of language. Acharyas of South India used Sanskrit. He used Hindi or Avdhi, right? The common language. Second was the attitude towards the lower caste. The Acharyas accepted the validity of social division based on the Varna and caste system. He rejected it at least to some degree and accepted disciples from the lower castes as well. And thirdly, while the Acharyas popularized the cult of Vishnu, he popularized the cult of one of the avatars of Vishnu. So अवतारवाद की शुरुआत यहीं से होती है, that is Ram. Another prominent exponent of Ram Bhakti in North India was Tulsidas, right? Now, Tulsidas wrote the famous Ramcharitmanas once again in the Awadhi dialect of Hindi. And if Ram is known to us today, if we are familiar with the stories of Lord Ram, it is the contribution of Tulsidas more than that of Valmiki's Sanskrit Ramayana, right? And finally, we have Nabhadas. Now, he came after Ramanand and Tulsidas, and his greatest contribution was to spread his message far and wide. What Tulsidas had achieved in the literary field, he was able to achieve in the popular domain. He was able to popularize the stories of Lord Ram. He, in fact, gathered a large following, large group of followers, many of whom started to act as missionaries of his Ram cult. They were known as the Bhakts, and they have compiled the various sermons, poems, songs, etc., written by Nabdas into a text known as the Bhaktamal. Right? So there were about 200 Bhaktas. They have also made their own contributions to it. Then, as for Krishna Bhakti, its first exponent in North India was a Telugu Brahmin, Vallabhacharya. Like Ramanand, he also lived throughout his life in the city of Banaras. And he was not only a religious reformer but also a philosopher. He, while challenging Shankaracharya's Advait philosophy, gave the Shuddha Advait philosophy, which rejects the idea of illusion or Maya. It says that this world is real and it is the manifestation of the ultimate reality. Now, for Shankaracharya, the ultimate reality had been Brahma, but he called it Krishna, right? So it is sublimely Krishna, and Krishna is associated with Ras Leela and the joy of living. In order to attain spiritual elevation, the path is not to attain knowledge but the grace of Krishna. How? Through bhakti, right? So that was the idea supported by Vallabhacharya. Like Nabdas, he also gathered a large following, and his 8 most prominent followers were known as the Ashtachap. From Banaras, they spread across North India and took the message of Vallabhacharya to every corner of North India. They popularized Krishna Bhakti in the popular consciousness through various songs, compositions, poems, plays, dramas, etc. These included exponents such as Jayadev. He was the first who brought Krishna Bhakti to Eastern India. He popularized Krishna Bhakti in the region of Bihar and Bengal through his Sanskrit text Geet Govind. Geet Govind focuses upon not the Mahabharat war but the story of Radha and Krishna. Although it has been written in Sanskrit, the imagery of this Radha Krishna love story is highly emotional and erotic, and thus very attractive to the popular mind. So he laid the foundations for Krishna Bhakti to emerge as a dominant cult in Eastern India. Similarly, Surdas, another follower of Vallabhacharya, popularized Krishna Bhakti through his poetry and writing in the Braj Bhasha in the region of Mathura and Vrindavan. Inspired by the growing popularity of the Krishna cult in Western India, Mirabai emerged as its most prominent exponent. Another follower of Vallabhacharya, Narsingh Mehta, popularized the Krishna cult in the region of Gujarat. But where the Krishna cult emerged as the most prominent movement was in Bengal. Following Jaydev, some regional personalities also began to promote Krishna Bhakti in the local languages in Bangla. The first among them was Chandidas, but the most famous was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He introduced several new practices associated with the Krishna cult, including the practice of Sankirtan and the Radha cult, that is emotional identification with Radha and accepting Krishna as the devotional husband by the devotee, right? So the kind of love that Radha felt towards Krishna, the devotee should also feel towards Krishna. That was the idea, and so popular were these methods and the personality of Chaitanya that his followers came to regard him as one of the incarnations of Krishna himself. Further, the Krishna cult was also extended to the Assam Valley, to the Brahmaputra Valley by a 16th century Bhakti saint Shankar Deva. And unlike Chaitanya, who had focused upon the Ras Leela between Radha and Krishna, Shankar Dev focused upon the deeds and achievements of Bal Krishna, that is, child Krishna, right? It is through these stories that he popularized Krishna Bhakti in the Assam region. As for the Maharashtra Dharma, some of the important saints associated with it include Namdev. He is considered to be the link between North Indian Vaishnavite Bhakti and the Maharashtra Dharma. The Maharashtra Dharma emphasizes upon the worship of a deity known as Vithoba, who is locally considered to be one of the incarnations of Vishnu in the Maharashtra region. Okay? He is the one who probably brought the idea of associating Vithoba with Vishnu from North India. Another important exponent is Gyandev. He wrote the famous Gyaneshwari Gita, and he expresses some very refreshing views with regards to caste and varna, which make Maharashtra Dharma a combination of Vaishnavite Bhakti of North India as well as the Nath Panth. Now, the Nath Panthis had a very liberal attitude towards the lower caste. They rejected the Varna system. Similarly, Gyandev, while accepting the supremacy of Vithoba as an incarnation of Vishnu, much like the Nath Panthis had done with regards to Shiva in the shapeless form, he also rejected the validity of the caste and Varna based hierarchy. Some other exponents include Eknath, and Tukaram. Right? Now, these four saints associated with the Maharashtra Dharma belong to a particular subsect of Maharashtra Dharma known as the Varakari sect. Now, while they do reject the validity of the caste and varna based hierarchy, they also emphasize upon asceticism and renunciation, that is dedicated bhakti towards Vithoba as a path to salvation. A major transformation in the Maharashtra Dharma was brought by Ramdas Samharth. He was the spiritual guru of Shivaji as well. And unlike the Varakari sect, he emphasized that the path to salvation does not lie in the renunciant method. Rather, the devotee should maintain a healthy balance between dharma and earth. Right? So he should live the life of a householder. And there should be well-being both materially as well as spiritually. And this new way of thinking is known as the Dharakari way. So he was the founder of the Dharakari sect. One thing of note about Maharashtra Dharma is that it was always popularized through the popular medium, that is the regional language, which is Marathi. As such, what the Maharashtra Dharma saints had achieved could be encapsulated in the following manner. Firstly, by inculcating a sense of equality, they had created a large social base of people living in the region of Maharashtra who felt associated with each other, who felt affinity towards each other. Secondly, by promoting the use of Marathi language, they had also created a great cultural affinity among all Marathis who felt associated with the Maharashtra Dharma. And thirdly, by emphasizing upon maintaining a healthy balance between spiritual and material life, for the first time, Saguna Bhakti movement in the Maharashtra region emerged as a medium to seek material well-being, right? And therefore, not only the other world was considered important, but this world was also considered important. Now, the material world is governed by several factors. First of all is money, but also comes political power, right? In fact, the two of them at a social level are often associated with each other, are codependent upon each other, right? And therefore, by encouraging the pursuit of material well-being and the pursuit of political power, the Dharakaris in particular encouraged the emergence of regional political consciousness. Now, as we had seen in the case of Sikhism, when the egalitarian agrarian Sikh order came into conflict with the feudal and oppressive Mughal Jagirdari system, there was a conflict, and the result of that conflict was the creation of a regional Sikh state in Punjab by the victorious Sikh community. Similar thing is going to happen in the region of Maharashtra also. An egalitarian, liberal, and culturally unified Maratha community with political consciousness and aspirations for a Maratha state is going to come into conflict with the oppressive and feudal Mughal order when Aurangzeb started to invade the Deccan. and the result was a conflict out of which emerged the Maratha state of Shivaji, right? So in other words, we can say that Maharashtra Dharma succeeded in providing or in creating the cultural and social roots of Chhatrapati Shivaji's Maratha state, at least to some degree. So the role that Sikhism had played among the in Punjab, the same role Maharashtra Dharma is going to play in Maharashtra. ठीक है, तो ये तो हो गए the Vaishnavite Shaguna Bhakti cults. Then the Shaivite Shagun Bhakti cults, namely the Veer Shiva or Lingayat cult. Now, unlike other Shagun Bhakti cults, the Veer Shivas were social radicals. They were vehemently opposed to Brahmanical orthodoxy and the Brahmanical worldview. Many of them came from the lower castes, even. They popularized Shiva Bhakti in the Linga form through the use of Kannada language, right? First of all, so this was a rejection of Sanskrit, which was the medium used by the Brahmins to maintain their intellectual and social supremacy. Secondly, they rejected the Brahmanical worldview as well. Brahmanical philosophy emphasized upon the idea of salvation, that is liberation from the cycle of birth and death through the merger of soul with Brahma, that is the ultimate reality. Veer Shivas rejected the concept of life after that and the concept of rebirth. They emphasized that as soon as a Shiva devotee, a Veer Shiva dies, he merges directly with Shiva. They also rejected the Brahmanical practices. For example, as a funerary practice, Brahmins or the Brahmanical order emphasizes upon the building of funeral pyres. So the dead are burnt in accordance with Brahmanical ritualism. They, the Veer Shivas, in response, began to bury their dead. The Brahmins, in order to maintain proper order within the society, thought that it was important to control the behavior of women in order to preserve the family structure and thus the social structure, since family was the foundational unit of the society. They felt that women needed to be kept bound in the institution of marriage, that strict rules regarding the interaction of women in the outside world need to be put in place. These were the Veer Shivas were anti-Brahmanical. They rejected all these ideas. Not only did they accept a large number of women disciples, they also rejected various social institutions such as marriage itself. Okay? So Veer Shaivism was a radical Shagun Bhakti movement, unlike the other Shagun Bhakti movements in the rest of India. Okay? So this is a brief survey of Shagun Bhakti movements in India during the medieval age. Now, one by one, let us expand upon all of these. ठीक है, तो मैं बोलते जाऊंगा, आप लोगों को लिखते जाना है. यहां तक फॉलो किया है ना सबने? कहीं पे कोई डाउट तो नहीं है ना? No doubt about others? Veer, Vicky, Rutuja? No doubts? चलिए, now give the heading classification of Shagun Bhakti. Classification of Sagun Bhakti. Write down. Shagun Bhakti in medieval India. Shagun Bhakti in medieval India emerged primarily around Vishnu and Shiva. Around Vishnu and Shiva. Around Vishnu and Shiva. Full stop. First subheading though, Vaishnavite Bhakti. Write down. Vaishnavite Bhakti was popularized across India in the form of his various avatars. In the form of his various avatars. Resulting in the emergence of A, B, and C. A, Rama cult, Krishna cult, और C, महाराष्ट्र धर्म. महाराष्ट्र धर्म. ठीक है, महाराष्ट्र धर्म. फर्दर सब हेडिंग लिखो. A, राम कल्ट. राइट डाउन. राम, comma, one of the prominent incarnations of Vishnu, had been a popular devotional figure in India at least since the Gupta age. When the final touches were given to Valmiki's Sanskrit Ramayana. Full stop. Next point. However, Ram Bhakti had yet not emerged from the umbrella of Vishnu Bhakti. Full stop. Next point. The credit for this transformation goes to Ramanand. Full stop. He is often considered to be the link between South and North Indian Bhakti. Full stop. like the Tamil Acharyas, next point, like the Tamil Acharyas, comma, Ramanand popularized the worship of Vishnu in medieval North India, but with major differences. But with major differences. इसके आगे सब पॉइंट्स लिखो ऐसे करके 1, 2, 3, right? Number 1, in place of Sanskrit, comma, he emphasized upon the use of Hindi. He emphasized upon the use of Hindi. Number 2, unlike the Acharyas, who promoted devotion towards Vishnu, comma, Ramanand began promoting the cult of one of his incarnations, Lord Ram. Ramanand began promoting the cult of one of his incarnations, comma, Lord Ram. And number 3, unlike the Tamil Acharyas, who accepted discrimination on the basis of Varna and caste, unlike Tamil Acharyas, who accepted discrimination on the basis of Varna and caste, comma, Ramanand accepted a large number of disciples from the lower castes, including prominent figures such as, who's the most famous disciple of Ramanand? कल डिस्कस किया था हमने, such as, बताओ, yes, such as Saint Kabir. ठीक है, next main point, write down, main point लिखना. Another important exponent of Ram Bhakti in North India was Tulsidas. Full stop. He composed the famous Ramcharitmanas, comma, a retelling of Valmiki's Ramayana, in Hindi. Within brackets you can write Awadhi dialect. सब पॉइंट लिखो, इस पॉइंट के अंदर सब पॉइंट। इट वॉज तुलसीज रामचरितमानस, it was Tulsi's Ramcharitmanas that transformed Ram, into the most popular figure, of the spiritual consciousness, of North India. ठीक है, Valmiki's Ramayana, which was in Sanskrit, did not have this kind of mass appeal. What Ramcharitmanas achieved was gargantuan when compared to the achievements of Valmiki's Ramayana. That is the point. Next main point, write down. Finally, Nabhadas achieved in the social field, or rather ऐसे मत लिखो, achieved through popular means, what Tulsidas had achieved through literary means. Finally, Nabhadas achieved through popular means what Tulsidas had achieved through literary means. Full stop. Subpoint. He transformed Ram Bhakti into a missionary movement. By gathering a large number of disciples, known as bhakts, and encouraging them to spread Ram Bhakti across the land. Full stop. Next subpoint. They did so through popular methods of entertainment, and storytelling. One very popular method which survives even today, the Ram Leela. Write down, such as the Ram Leela. Full stop. Next subpoint. Further, the songs, poems, and sermons of Nabhadas and other prominent bhakts, the songs, poems, and sermons of Nabhadas and other prominent bhakts were compiled into a work known as the Bhaktamal. ठीक है, So these are the chief exponents of Ram Bhakti. Next we come to कृष्णा भक्ति. तो राम भक्ति के लिए ए लिखा था ना, राइट डाउन बी, अगला सब हेडिंग कृष्णा भक्ति. कृष्णा भक्ति फुल स्टॉप लिखो. कृष्णा भक्ति was first introduced by the saint and philosopher Vallabhacharya. By the saint and philosopher Vallabhacharya. Full stop. Sub point. He was a Telugu Brahmin. Who lived and preached at Banaras in the Awadhi dialect. Full stop. Next point. Next point. Vallabhacharya also challenged the Advait philosophy. Of Shankaracharya to put forward his own philosophy of Shuddha Advait. Full stop. Next point. Shuddha Advait rejects the concept of Maya. And considers reality to be absolute and non-distinct. ठीक है. So Advait philosophy क्या बोलता है? That the ultimate reality is Brahma and the material world is an illusion. Because of this illusion, we cannot perceive that Atma and Paramatma, Atma and Brahma are one and the same. So this veil of illusion needs to be lifted from our eyes. How to break this illusion? By attaining Jnana. Thus, Shankaracharya, through his Advait philosophy, propounded the Jnana marg towards salvation. That is, absorbing the Upanishadic truth that there is unity of man and God. शुद्ध अद्वैत क्या बोल रहा है? माया कुछ है ही नहीं. Both God and both the spirit and the material world are real. They are the creation of the supreme being, that is Krishna. And the real world, the material world, represents the stage upon which Krishna plays his Leela. And he also told his disciples and followers, he put forward the idea that the lives of individuals are like mini dramas which are taking place on this grand stage. And in this scenario, how to attain salvation? By expressing complete love and devotion towards Krishna in order to attain his spiritual grace. Right? So that is the idea. While telling you all of this, I have lost my train of thought कि कहाँ पे था मैं dictation में आपके पास. What was the last thing that I had dictated? Somebody prompt me. Shuddha Advait rejects the concept of Maya. Thank you. Shuddha Advait rejects the concept of Maya and emphasizes that the world which has been created by the Supreme God, within brackets, Krishna, is real and indistinct from reality. Shuddha Advait rejects the concept of Maya and emphasizes that the world which has been created by the Supreme God, within brackets Krishna, is real and indistinct from reality. Real and indistinct from reality. Next subpoint. It envisions the world as a grand stage. The world as a grand stage for Krishna to play his Leela. As a grand stage for Krishna to play his Leela. Full stop. Next subpoint. In this scenario, the lives of individuals are envisioned as mini dramas being played out on the grand stage. As mini dramas being played out on the grand stage. Next subpoint. Thus, Vallabhacharya was able to conveniently reject Shankaracharya's Gyan Marg. Right? So, since there is no illusion, there is no need for Gyan or knowledge to undo that illusion, to break that illusion. Right? So, that is the idea that has been suggested. Next subpoint likho. In its place, comma, Vallabhacharya put forward the Pushti Marg, also known as the Maryada Marg. As the path to salvation. Put forward the Pushti Marg or Maryada Marg as the path to salvation. Next subpoint. It stands for attainment of Krishna's spiritual grace. It stands for the attainment of Krishna's spiritual grace by expressing complete love and devotion towards complete love and devotion towards. ठीक है. Next sub point. Vallabhacharya also gathered a large following among whom were the Ashtachar, within brackets, his 8 most important followers. Who spread the philosophy of Shuddhadvait, and the path of Pushti Marg, along with Krishna Bhakti, to all parts of India. ठीक है. Next main point लिखना. So Jayadev Vallabhacharya we have covered. Next main point. Surdas popularized Krishna Bhakti in the Mathura Vrindavan belt, or in the Mathura Vrindavan region. Through his compositions in the Braj Bhasha. His most famous poetic compilations include the Sur Sagar and the Sur Saravali. Okay? As we had just seen, the most famous poetic compilations of Surdas were Sur Sagar and Sur Saravali. Right? अच्छा, एक यूनिक चीज देखेंगे that almost all of them are writing in the or preaching in the local languages, not in Sanskrit. Right? Next main point. Similarly, Narsingh Mehta popularized the Krishna cult in Gujarat, while Mirabai popularized it in the region of Rajasthan. Right? popularized it in the region of Rajasthan. Next point लिखो. In Bengal, Jaydev began popularizing Krishna Bhakti along with Vidyapati, Jaydev and Vidyapati. Write down. Subpoint. Jaydev composed the famous Sanskrit text Geet Govind. Composed the famous Sanskrit text Geet Govind in Sanskrit, which focuses upon the relationship between Radha and Krishna, and presents it in a highly emotional and erotic manner. Full stop. Next point. It was this vivid imagery that was responsible for the great popularity of the Krishna cult in comparison to the Rama cult. It was this vivid imagery that was responsible for the great popularity of the Krishna cult as compared to the Ram cult. Next main point. Vidyapati carried on the Bhakti tradition in Bihar. And composed several devotional songs dedicated to Krishna, focusing upon the Ras Leela of Radha and Krishna, in the Maithili language. Next main point. Similarly, the earliest Krishna Bhakti saint in Bengal, was Chandidas. The earliest Krishna Bhakti saint in Bengal was Chandidas. Next main point. However, the most famous Krishna Bhakti saint in Eastern India, was undoubtedly Chaitanya. Was undoubtedly Chaitanya. Subpoint. So deep was his impact. On the popular consciousness. That his disciples began worshipping him as an incarnation of Krishna himself. Right? As an incarnation of Krishna himself. Next subpoint लिखो. He popularized Krishna Bhakti through innovative methods such as Kirtan, that is devotional public singing. And promotion of the Radha cult. What is this Radha cult? क्या है ये? Here the devotee is supposed to emotionally identify themselves with Radha so that they may experience the same kind of love and devotion towards Krishna as Radha did. In order to experience the same intensity of love towards Krishna as Radha. And once this intense feeling of love is experienced, from that emerges madhurya or sweetness. So the love between Radha and Krishna was complete, and so will be the love between the devotee and Krishna, right? So as intensely as the devotee loves and worships Krishna, Krishna is also going to intensely love and take care of the devotee. So that is known as madhurya. Now, one of the ways in which to elicit this ecstasy, this madhurya, where one loses sense of themselves, is to engage in kirtan or public devotional singing, in dancing as Radha on popular songs which are crafted through the method of kirtan, right? So क्या लिखा है आपने कि popularized through innovative methods such as kirtan, that is devotional public singing, and the Radha cult. Write down. The Radha cult involved emotional identification of the devotee with Radha so as to experience the same intensity of love towards Krishna, as her, in order to attain an ecstatic state, known as madhurya or sweetness. ठीक है? नेक्स्ट पॉइंट लिखो, नेक्स्ट मेन पॉइंट. Finally, Krishna Bhakti was introduced to the Brahmaputra Valley, within brackets you can write Assam, by Shankar Dev. Full stop. Sub point. Unlike the Krishna Bhakti of Eastern India, Radha did not play a significant role. Full stop. In place of adult Krishna, comma, Bal Krishna emerged as the most prominent theme of Assamese Bhakti. Bal Krishna emerged as the most prominent theme of Assamese Bhakti. Full stop. Next point. Further, comma, Shankar Dev introduced the practice of establishing monasteries monasteries for the devotees, known as Sataras, full stop. Thus, he was able to provide an institutional basis. For the Krishna cult of Assam. ठीक है? So Ram Bhakti we have covered, Krishna Bhakti we have covered. Now next subheading C, Maharashtra Dharma. Write down. In many ways, comma, Maharashtra Dharma was the result of Nathpanthi influences and Sagun Bhakti of North India. Full stop. It emerged in the town of Pandharpur from the early 16th century onwards. It emerged in the town of Pandharpur, this is in Maharashtra, from the early 16th century onwards. It revolved around the worship of Vithoba or Vitthal Dev. Vithoba or Vitthal Dev. Full stop. The cult of Vithoba was linked to that of Vishnu under the influence of Namdev. Under the influence of Namdev. Comma, who is considered to be the link between North Indian Bhakti and the Maharashtra Dharma, between North Indian Bhakti and the Maharashtra Dharma, right? So it was Namdev who brought the cult of Vishnu from North India to the Maharashtra region and associated Vithoba with Vishnu. And thus, Vithoba today is recognized as a reincarnation of Vishnu himself. Write down. It was अच्छा नहीं ठीक है हो गया. The cult of Vithoba was linked to that of Vishnu under the influence of Namdev, who is considered to be the link between North Indian Bhakti and the Maharashtra Dharma. Next sub point. Another prominent Maharashtra Dharma saint was Jnaneshwar, so written either as Jnaneshwar or Jnaneshwar, Gyaneshwar, whose famous Gyaneshwari Gita, whose famous Gyaneshwari Gita is a Marathi retelling and commentary upon the retelling of and a commentary upon the Bhagavad Gita. Commentary, a retelling of and a commentary upon the Bhagavad Gita. Here, he expresses some original ideas, such as the equality of man and rejection of the caste and Varna hierarchy. Rejection of the caste and Varna hierarchy, such as equality of man and the rejection of the caste and Varna hierarchy. Additionally, he also emphasizes upon renunciation or asceticism, renunciation or asceticism as the path to salvation, Next point. Other Maharashtra Dharma saints such as Eknath and Tukaram popularized it with the use of popular mediums such as songs, poems, stories, and dramas. Songs, poems, stories, and dramas. Together, Namdev, Eknath, Tukaram, and Gyaneshwar belong to the Varakari sect of Maharashtra Dharma. Belong to the Varakari sect of the Maharashtra Dharma. What does it stand for? सब पॉइंट लिखो. It stands for religious peace and tolerance, universal brotherhood, renunciation, and equality and non-discrimination. Equality and non-discrimination. Further, it lays emphasis upon the importance of forming strong community bonds through a shared language, beliefs, and practices. Forming strong community bonds through shared language, beliefs, and practices. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट लिखो. नेक्स्ट मेन पॉइंट. गुरु Ramdas Samharta who authored the Dasbodh was the spiritual mentor of Chhatrapati Shivaji. Subpoint. He laid the foundations of the Dharakari sect within Maharashtra Dharma. Next subpoint. It rejected the efficacy of renunciation or asceticism as the means to salvation, and stressed upon the importance of a balanced life. A balanced life. Full stop. Now, this balanced life stood for the equal importance of spiritual and material development. Okay? And it was in this context the whole value system of the Marathi society was redefined. So it was in this context that the whole value system of the Marathi society was redefined. Material well-being emerged as a cultural and religious priority. Material well-being emerged as a cultural and religious priority. And in this context, the political aspirations of the Marathas were clearly defined, right? So it was in this context of ensuring material well-being, क्योंकि materialism में economic power भी आता है, political freedom भी आता है, that the idea of Swaraj emerged for the first time. And it was also in this context that the idea of Dharma was reimagined. New concepts such as Raj Dharma also emerged. And this is what propelled to some degree figures such as Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to carve out a new state, right? So major change हुआ है with the emergence of the Dharakari sect and the Dharakari philosophy. Right. The combined effect of the Varakari and Dharakari sects can thus be summarized. Sorry, Dharakari sects in the field of political development can thus be summarized as follows. Number one, by emphasizing upon equality and rejecting Varna and caste hierarchies, Maharashtra Dharma, by emphasizing upon equality and rejecting Varna and caste hierarchies, Maharashtra Dharma healed the fractured Marathi society. Healed the fractured Marathi society, comma, creating unity at a deeper level. Creating unity at a deeper level. Second, Maharashtra Dharma also played an important role in imparting a distinct cultural identity to the Marathas by encouraging the growth of Marathi language and literature. Marathi language and literature, right? And what was the result of this? This gave the Marathis a distinct identity which was different from the surrounding regions, right? So this promoted a growing sense of regional and cultural consciousness. So Marathis as a cultural group began emerging from this period onwards as a result of the contributions of Maharashtra Dharma. And final ingredient क्या चाहिए देखो, the Marathis believe that they are united and that they have a distinct regional and cultural identity, right? So Marathas have been united and they share a distinct regional and cultural identity. For the process of state formation, they simply need political consciousness. And this was also provided by Maharashtra Dharma. Thirdly, by igniting the growth of Maratha political consciousness, the Dharakari sect laid the foundations of the Maratha subnationalism. Right? Although nationalism is a term that is associated with the modern West, at least some features of nationalism, namely their cultural unity, their strong regional identity, their linguistic affiliation, and the egalitarian base of the society with a shared political objective, gave us some of the features of nationalism to Marathas from the 16th century onwards, 16th, 17th century onwards, late 16th, early 17th century onwards. So it would not be inaccurate to call this a brand of sub-nationalism. Since Marathas were involved with this, Maratha sub-nationalism, right? So this was their contribution in the field of political development. Finally, write down, as such, when the egalitarian culturally distinct and politically aspirational Maratha society came into contact with the perceptibly foreign feudalistic oppressive and religiously non-conformist Mughal order, conflict was the natural outcome. Conflict was the natural outcome. Subpoint. It was out of this conflict that the Maratha state of Chhatrapati Shivaji emerged. Right? So there were several factors behind the emergence of the Maratha state, but what is often overlooked is the role played by Maharashtra Dharma. That should not be overlooked. That is the point. Okay? Take down a question. Examine the role played by Maharashtra Dharma in the process of state formation in the Western Ghats during the 16th, 17th centuries. Examine the role played by Maharashtra Dharma in the process of state formation in the Western Ghats during the 16th, 17th century. So, Western Ghats during the 16th, 17th century, we are talking about which state? The Maratha state of Chhatrapati Shivaji. और इसमें महाराष्ट्र धर्म का रोल आपको एग्जामिन करना है, एक्सपैंड करना है. वर्ड लिमिट इज 215 marks. So what we have discussed from this point onwards, along with from this point onwards, that you have to incorporate in your answer, but obviously you will have to reformulate your arguments, you will have to rework your arguments. Okay, so let me know if you will be able to address this or if you need any guidance. हो जाएगा ना ये? ठीक है. Yes, but intro. अच्छा. तो intro में we can talk about the roots of Maharashtra Dharma. That Maharashtra Dharma emerged as a popular devotional cult in the town of Pandharpur around Vithoba during the 16th century. However, it was much more than simply a religious sect. It represented a major cultural and social movement and produced long lasting and major effects, including in the political sphere. In the shape of the Maratha state of Chhatrapati Shivaji. State of Chhatrapati Shivaji. In this scenario, the role of Maharashtra Dharma in state formation needs to be investigated further. Okay? So that is going to be the intro. You have ended at a convenient point where you are informing the examiner that इसके आगे हम role of Maharashtra Dharma को further investigate करेंगे in the process of state formation. अभी हो जाएगा. ठीक है. Now, Vaishnavite Bhakti we have covered. बचा क्या है? Saivite Bhakti. Give the heading or subheading Saivite Bhakti, and under that the Lingayat or Virashaiva sect. Write down. It emerged in the Karnataka region from the 13th century onwards. Around the cult of Lord Shiva in the Linga form. In the Linga form. Next point. The devotees often wear a small linga statue around their necks as a mark of devotion, and are thus known as the Lingayats. Next point. The Lingayat sect is also notable for its militancy and open hostility towards other sects, especially Brahmanical theistic practices. Full stop. Thus, the followers imagine themselves as the warriors of Shiva. And a term for warrior in Kannada, Telugu and Tamil, Veer, right? So they call themselves Veer Shivas. All right. Next point लिखो. The Veer Shivas fall into the category of social radicals. Social radicals. Stop. They oppose Brahmanical orthodoxy in all its forms. सब पॉइंट लिख सकते हो. नंबर 1, they reject the idea of life after death and rebirth. Full stop. इसी पॉइंट में कंटिन्यू करो. Instead they emphasize that the soul merges with Shiva after death and disappears. Soul merges with Shiva after death and disappears. Okay. Next sub point लिखो. Oh, sorry. In the same sub point, you can continue. Therefore, they ritually bury their dead after death. Number 2, they also reject the discriminatory, they also reject Varna and caste based divisions. Varna and caste based divisions of all forms. Full stop. Next sub point. Their attitude towards women and the institution of marriage is also quite radical. Is also quite radical. ठीक है? So these are the वीर शिवास. क्लियर है ना? कोई डाउट्स तो नहीं है? नो? वीर, विकी, ऋतुजा, नो डाउट्स? चलिए then. In that case, I'm going to end this lecture now, and I'll see you guys in our next class.